Hello, my name is Winslaya and welcome to my video diving into screenshots I took from the third gameplay stream covering Giant Kings, which is the next expansion for Age of Wonders 4 and is coming out April 1st. Just like I've done with the previous gameplay streams by the devs, I went through and took screenshots of all of the interesting numbers and mechanics that popped up for a few seconds so that we can take a closer look at them together. I will have timestamps below, so if you want to jump to any particular topic or concept, you can do so. I will also be posting these images to the official Age of Wonders 4 forum, so if you want to look at them with me, you can do so using the link in the description below. Important disclaimer, a lot of the numbers that we're looking at today are from relatively early versions of Age of Wonders 4, and the devs have announced that there will be at least one more DLC for Age of Wonders 4, so these numbers are likely going to change quite significantly over the development of the game. One thing I did see on Discord recently was some speculation that there will be a season pass after season pass 2, based off of the feedback Jordy was saying about forms and things that they're taking into consideration. Seems like there may have been a small leak that we have another season pass potentially after this one, but nothing has been confirmed by the devs yet. They've been posting a lot of little things over the past few weeks just to tease out little bits of information that were coming out anyways. Like I think they showed off the lava thing in Discord before they showed it off in stream. But yeah, I don't have too much today from the stream, only about 14 pages worth of images, which is not too much. So I figured that we would also take a little look at the patch notes. One of the last things that I have here, somebody pointed out on the Discord. This is a governor type that used to be in Age of Wonders 4, was removed when they reworked the system with Renown, and so now they've brought in a way to recruit like river trolls and swamp trolls and these ogres um, through the governor trait again. So that's really cool, and there's other information in this page that I haven't gotten to yet that I'd like to try and uncover together, as well as highlight some of the things that I've heard from other people who've been spending a lot of time on the open beta for the Ogre update. Now, let's get into the screenshots. The first set we have here, basically the signature skills you can pick when you get to level 8. When you get to level 8, you can take this one, which will make it so when you kill a unit, you deal 15 damage up to 2 enemy units within 2 hexes. And then another option is you can get very fast movement, gain a stack of strength and fortune when it uses an attack ability. So you just have to attack to get a lot of strength and a lot of fortune. And very fast will allow them to move across the map more quickly. I think that's both strategically and tactically. And after that, we have Brawn Rune. There's basically 6 choices here. The third one says you can get an attack. The attack can stun, it looks like, as well as apply Immobilize, Bleed, Flanker, and Frenzy. Some of these must be coming from other signature skills like Frenzy and Flanker, I think, are coming from other places. And the Immobilize and Stun could be attached to this ability. I'm not too sure just looking at it right here. Undying is an effect we've seen in the game before. At level 8, you can give your guy the Life Rune, which will make it so that they revive after 2 turns, which is going to be something that will be a lot better in manual combat than in auto combat. Sometimes combats can end before the trigger activates, reviving the guy, so they stay dead when, like, if you just passed one more turn, they would come back with not full health, but 50% of their HP and be able to um, yeah, stay on the strategic level. You wouldn't have to, like, say, revive them if they were a hero. These guys are always rulers, so you wouldn't have to wait for him to revive back in your capital. Next, we have the Safeguard rune, which basically makes it so this unit specifically gets a lot of bolstering defense, resistance, and temporary HP per stack of bolstering defense and resistance when this unit drops below 60% of its maximum HP, which I think we were seeing around 160 points here. So 60% of that is at least 40 less points. You'd have to lose like 50 HP or something to activate that effect, and then you could probably heal up most of that with the temporary HP, so long as you have lots of stacks of bolstering resistance and bolstering defense. Next, we have the Disruption rune, which is going to make it so that you can deal extra damage to magic origin units and disrupt enemies, which is going to deactivate their enchantments, if I remember correctly. This effect is pretty powerful, but I think it's also something that they changed in the open beta, so we'll get to that information somewhat soon. We're still pretty early in the screenshots I took. Something about a ruler is now one of the few ways you can leave a city without having. Oh, yeah, return. How did that turn into that? Return ruler is a spell, and now you can use that spell to leave a city without having to fight the besieger. They tried to change the way sieges work a little bit more so that you see those battle maps with the walls a little bit more often. So if a defender just tries to sally out, they'll still see the map with the catapults and the walls. And this interaction here will make it so that you can't just leave the city and fight them out in open field if they've started a siege around your units who are in a city. It kind of makes them trapped a little bit more than in older versions of the game. Now we have this one, which I believe I didn't understand correctly. Is this the one that makes it so this is the one that affects all non-hero units, whereas this one is saying you get HP and a summon, which will deal damage to a unit within 4 hexes and inflict them with volatile charge. So it doesn't say enemy. It looks like this can actually affect friendly units. You'll have to be a little bit more careful with this one, but it brings in a summon that can be summoned every 3 turns. That's nice. The fact that it can come in as soon as it's done, like you can activate it on the turn, that the other one would disappear, or after it had disappeared, I believe is how that would work. And then in here, it's saying you can get extra status resistance on the unit that has this rune. This goes on equipment like your helmets or your swords, I think. I think both of these actually are supposed to go on things like trinkets. Yeah, this says this can go on trinkets, and I can't quite read what this is saying underneath it, but I would assume maybe it's like a trinket. Maybe it doesn't go on your armor, or it does. Not too sure. Next, we have transmuters are different. They're quite different, actually. They now have the ability to gild on their primary attack, and their AoE won't gild until you get to the champion rank. Once you get to champion rank experience on these transmuters, now they're able to gild in the AoE. That's quite a powerful ability, and I think I've been hearing from people who are playing on the Ogre update that transmuters and other battle mages are really strong right now. The fact that you're being able to add extra stuff onto their secondary attacks and modify them with enchantments is making those secondary attacks very powerful in general. Yeah, on the AoE. So, yeah, now at champion rank you can get the AoE, and in here are some screenshots of the lithorite dwelling, some stuff that we haven't seen before this, which is really interesting. This is saying basically you're going to get a lot of resource income based off of your affinity. If you say have the astral affinity, you'll get extra mana. If you have the order affinity, you'll get extra stability, and you can see the rest basically here. This is just saying so long as you have order affinity tome, you will get this modifier. You don't get it multiple times for each point of affinity. Pretty good if you've got a wide variety of affinities, which if you take the lithorite scroll should allow you to do that. You can buy the Astroblade, which unlocks the eternal studies in your cities, and that converts cities production into knowledge. Seems quite powerful. It would require 750 knowledge to unlock, and then I think that would be probably like the Planet Falls button that generates knowledge. It replaces the generate gold in Planet Fall with a generate knowledge if you just click one of the other options, and that used to be very powerful. I generally do that instead of getting extra gold in Planet Fall, so I think unlocking this is probably going to be worthwhile. Um, Next, we have the lithorine simulacrum. It's such a hard word to say. It's a mythic unit, and they can basically use the volatile charge. They're draftable in cities. They are a tier 5 unit, so they're going to take a lot of draft to build and be quite good once you do that. You won't be able to just summon them in where your armies are, which is an important consideration. Now we have a couple different weapons, I think, that were in the in the Pantheon, which they showed off, I believe, at the end of the stream or maybe partway through the stream. It's been a few days since the stream was recorded. So let's see. Internal pickaxe is going to basically make it so that every attack has a chance to gild the opponent, as well as the combo has a 90% chance to gild the opponents. And then what else do we have in here? We have the Crystalize Essence, which says revive a target non-lithorine, non-hero unit as a lithorine of its tier. Ooh, I like that. That sounds nice. That sounds powerful. Close that. And now you move on to if victorious in combat, unit revive can be kept for mana cost. Oh, you just get the lithorine guys, kind of like if you capture somebody. I like this the more and more I read it. Crystal Focus says base magic attacks of enchanted units gain a 60% chance of applying the volatile charge. Yeah, that's a, like delayed AoE damage. That seems pretty good. It is lightning and I think physical. And lightning seems to be something that people are less weak to in the Ogre update, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong. Crystal Crash is going to do some damage and apply volatile charge to units in an AoE and a 1 hex radius. That seems like an expensive spell. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually like this one in practice, but it is cheaper than the other stuff. It does come online a little bit earlier than the other stuff. Where is Crystal Clash? Crash is up here at the top of the crystal pack after you get to the stone pack. Okay. Swamps now starts. No, I remember what this is saying. They won't start with the wet tag because Bass added planks to the map, and we actually did see this in one of our skirmishes recently. Now, when you start on this map, your units won't like sometimes be in the water and therefore take more lightning damage and frost damage from units that do that. And it also gave them like fire resistance, but it wasn't worth it because you get slowed most of the time if you start off in the water. What else do we have here? Feels like I got these images earlier and we talked about these ones earlier. I'm not sure why that repeated, but we do have another champion medal here that's giving +1 range on the tier 3 something rather. What are you? You are the longbowman, aren't you? Yes, the cultural unit. So they get even more range once they get to their champion rank. That seems quite good given that they already have a little bit of extra range from their longbow ability. This is I'm going to make sure I get it right, a new landmark. Yeah, different than Ancient Wonders. The new landmark here basically is going to give you draft, stability, souls. No, not stability. It looks like that's the souls icon. It can allow you to use the undying battlefield combat enchantment, which I think just makes zombies when things die. And then if you get 3 things attached to this, basically tier 1 units are easier to recruit. And I gotta zoom in a little bit here. It says something about souls. Souls are attainable. Unlock the recruitment of skeletons in that city. Oh, I guess that's something you could do if you wanted to get some skeletons. All right, and now we see the undying battlefield here saying basically each corpse is resurrected as a random skeleton with berserk. Skeletons unit themselves are not resurrected by this and die at the end of combat. Skeleton units are not resurrected by this effect. Non-vital and die at the end of combat. I think that makes sense to me now. Yeah, the fact that they aren't going to stay around after the combat means you won't get a bunch of free units here. They're non-vital, which means if everybody else dies in the battle, they can't keep the battle going. And yeah, this is basically to turn things that aren't skeletons into something that could help you, I think, probably. It just says they turn into things that are berserk, but I'm not sure if they're all going to be on your side in berserk, or if they're going to be like partially on your side, partially on the enemy side. That would be kind of cool. A little bit chaotic. All right, so now we're getting to the Pantheon rewards that Voxel showed off. The Cavern Bear is a badger. Apparently, this decided to call it a Cavern Bear. There must be some reason for that. That I like. I'm not good with biology, but maybe bears and badgers are somewhat related. If you know, please let me know because I'm not, as I said, not familiar with that. With the badger itself. And then what do we have underneath this? Some more interesting stuff like the magma orb, which is something that they did show off in Discord. It looks pretty cool. And this is something we've seen in the lithorite dwellings. You can buy this item. This is the lower tier one that doesn't have gilded on its individual repeating attack, but rather on the third one it can combo and gild the enemy. Giantslayer Spear seems like it is specifically designed to take out the new giant units. When attacking a large unit, gain fortune for 3 turns will allow them to crit more basically. They still have the plus 40% damage here, but on top of it they get this other modifier that makes it so that they should get to do more damage every once in a while when attacking not just giants, but anything with a large target, which is a large percentage of the late game units. All right, what do we have here? We have the Titan's Greatbow. I'm just going to take a second to, yeah, that can help out with the audio. Sometimes the audio cuts out if I don't do something with the headset here. And I see it says it's picking up audio. Um, Titan's Greatbow. On the third strike, it pushes the enemy target back by 1 hex. Ooh, I don't remember seeing that earlier. I see range 5 here, and I think that's supposed to be more than other range attacks, but I don't believe we've seen too much here. Like the Magma Orb, if it popped up, we could compare that quickly to see what the range are on that weapon. Um, but it looks like I didn't get any screenshot of that. Let's make sure we don't skip past the Lithorite Orb and the Crystal Runner. The Crystal Runner, it's a mounted unit, looks cool. I don't think it gets any special modifier, but it's neat. I really like the design of it. The Lithorite Orb is something that's going to make it so units summoned by this unit gain the volatile summon, which I believe means, yeah, it says right here, when this unit dies, it deals 8 physical damage and 8 lightning damage to adjacent enemies. So it doesn't apply the volatile charge, but applies basically the effect that you get when volatile charge activates in 2 turns after it's applied. It does like an AoE to enemy units, not your units, just the enemies, which seems pretty good. Shatter Blades has a primary attack which applies the volatile charge, but what's more interesting to me about Shatter Blades is it has this throw Shatter Blade effect, which I think was something that the devs have been wanted to try and incorporate into the heroes ever since they were working on the Ways of War DLC with the Shade that has a attack like this that lets it throw a little dagger. Um, but they didn't actually show off what the shatter blade does on that attack. They just talked about the fact that it's in there now, and he does throw the dagger just like the shades would. The Subterranean Society is one of the most interesting things we got to see in this stream. This is our new culture that you can get from the Pantheon, and it will start you off with excavation, really cool. It will also make it so underground passages grant you Imperium. So if you clear out those little tunnels in between the caverns, you can get a little bit of Imperium from that, as well as the underground cities are going to grow their pops a little bit faster, and excavation has a chance of spawning in additional resource nodes. They mentioned the percentages in the stream, and if I remember correctly, it was like 10% to get an extra gold mine, or 10% to get an extra iron mine, or 10% to get an extra mana node. So it's like 30% roughly to get something bonus on top of what the map decided would be there at the beginning of the game. So this seems pretty cool, pretty good. I'd actually really like to play around with this in a multiplayer and see how I like it, because I think that there's going to be enough swing in this randomness that it can be really good, and sometimes it's just going to be annoying and feel like a waste of a point. Um, Rampant Fire is from the Magma Orb. Target hex is become on fire for 3 turns, and that is a new modifier, right? So that Magma Orb that we mentioned earlier, I think works a lot like the other orbs, but it has this extra little thing to make it easier to, apply the burning modifier on enemy units. Trollkin Governor, I mentioned it earlier, but I think we could take a second to read what each thing says. Renown level 1 says each forester gives you a little city stability, not terrible, can help you counter the city stability penalties you get from annexing provinces. Each forester giving draft is like pretty minor. At this point, I think the main benefit starts to be you can recruit units in the city that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. At level 3, the rivers just grant you a little bit of food. That's pretty minor. Once again, the river troll is the main selling point here. And at level 4, each force are giving you +2 mana is like, okay. Yeah, that's pretty bad compared to some of the other things you get at Renown level 4 from other rulers, but you can recruit the tier 4 swamp trolls. I think the swamp trolls are tier 4 units, so that's pretty strong, and it's neat that it's back. I'm really happy to see it's back. I don't know if you just added one more income to each of these, if it would be worth it, if it would be meaningfully better, or if just like this interaction is just kind of like, you know, not impressive, and that's fine because of everything else you get in this governor ability. All right, next we have the Whiteborn visual has been changed a little bit so that their eyes look a little bit more undead. If I remember correctly, they used to have like purple eyes and people were really not liking the Whiteborn aesthetics, so that has been something changed. And yeah, that's everything that I had from the dev stream and random Discord posts. Now let's just go through this a little bit and see what jumps out to us. I've already talked about how there's a lot more things with like spirit resistance. Resistance. Yeah, like constructs have spirit resistance. Magma spirits, all spirits have extra spirit resistance, and lightning resistance is quite a bit different now too. We just went through all the spirit one. Lightning. Yeah, that increases damage, focus, lightning staff. Oops. Let's put in resistance here. Yeah, it only mentions the resistance change there once, but they removed the lightning weakness on ethereal units and gave them spirit weakness, which is a pretty big change and is going to really affect how you approach certain factions in certain fights. Like if there's a lot of constructs in a location and you deal a lot of spirit damage, you might just say, I'm not going to fight that. I might not go into the Desolate Workshop and let somebody else deal with that, or maybe my vassals can help me deal with that. But yeah, let's go up to the top here. As you can see, a whole lot, and we won't go through every little bullet point. I don't think we really need to. It's not super worthwhile, but we will mention the big highlights here. We get Ancient Wonders. This is in the free Ogre update. Pretty cool, right? When you consider that we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new, I think, storylines essentially. They have 3 or more adventure sets. In all base games that did not already have 3 or more adventure sets now have new adventures for you to experience. So the locations themselves aren't different, but you have new storylines added in here, which is pretty cool. I love that how that will lend to replayability and the ability to roleplay, because after a while you start to see the same things over and over and over again, and a few little extra events to give a little bit of variety will go a long way, I believe. Form filtering and save improvement. I can't wait to try this out and see how much I love it, because I have a feeling I'm going to really love it. For the longest time, you can save your settings in multiplayer, and you'd have to make sure it was exactly the way you like it every time. It wouldn't save any of the settings about, like, say, timer or map size. No, map size you could set. But the timer and those like little interactions that came in the advanced menu, they would reset to default every time. Faction creation updates, yeah, I don't care too much about this. It's nice that you can make your horses look a little bit more unique now. That you can use the different mount traits, I think, to, yeah, just like functionally make your factions look a little bit more different. There's a lighting button. Okay, that's cool. We can move on to the Pantheon update we already talked a little bit about. I don't think there's anything that was missed in my screenshots. Oh, right, there's these icons. Okay, cool. You can make some different. You can use different icons in your faction creation now. New realm traits. They added more places for you to add things, and the feudal authority. I've covered this in previous videos on my channel, so I'm not going to cover that in detail here, but it is neat that they reworked the feudal culture. I'm not sure out of the two of them which one I like more, but generally speaking, I think it'll be easier to use the monarchs. That's what I believe the design choice between monarch and aristocracy was. Is monarch would be the default, easy to play, whereas aristocracy would be a little bit more complicated and probably more powerful once you got the hang of it. Yeah, and this is aristocracy here. They're just talking about the units. Siege update. Yeah, they've basically removed fortification health, a lot of things that give fortification health and things that allow you to do more fortification damage to the game. And I think the aim is to make it so that there are a lot less time associated with sieges. I know when you just kind of like click internal all the time when you get to turn 70. The AI can have a lot of fortification, or at least they used to have a lot of fortification strength. It could take you like 10 turns to burn down their city, and that could mean fighting literally the same fight 5 or 6 times because they would just keep buying the same units over and over again, and you'd have to fight them. Even though you could beat them pretty easily, you'd have to fight that same fight over and over and over again. All right, now we have Sally out logic. The AI is gonna think a little bit differently about the way they are going to interact with the player around their cities. There's movement restrictions. Now, yeah, units in a besieged city cannot leave. I mentioned that slightly earlier in this video. Besieged city can reorganize. Units in a besieged city, yeah, they can reorganize within the hexes in the city. That makes sense. They can sally out to combat, be able to leave. Units outside can reinforce, but they won't be able to leave. Can they join the city? Can they move into the city? Trying to move path out of the city will show warning. So it's inside the city, have siege state. Got it. It's not showing in the thing yet. Okay. Outposts can no longer upgrade their palisade walls to stone walls. Seems like a pretty significant change I haven't seen people talking about. Yeah, and then to get achievements, you don't need as much because the fortification strength is different now. The projects I've mentioned in previous dev stream things, we've covered this a little bit before. There are some other extra fancier things like Ritual of Calamity is a higher level thing. And as much as I want to understand all the differences here, at this point, I'm not super interested. I feel like it's something that I can learn by playing the game almost as well as just reading the things in here. I'll forget half the things that I read in here. Whereas if it happens to me, it's a lot easier to remember how the interaction works. All right, now fortification structures are different. Yeah, this is just showing that they have less points coming from here. Lava gameplay, right. Now, one interesting thing I noticed after reading this is that basically you're going to have a minus 15 city stability penalty if you get these lava provinces in your city, unless you have like the Demonkin transformation or Scions of Flames transformation, and these are other options that can help you get around that stability penalty. Seems pretty cool, pretty neat, but I'm not sure how often you're going to actually be able to annex lava yet. I think I heard some people saying that it might only happen around certain wonders or in certain cities. Um, but I don't know yet. I haven't played around with this enough yet. Um, Even though it's in the Ogre update, I haven't had a lot of time to just start a bunch of new maps and see how this stuff works. Now we have interesting productions that come from these chains. You get production, then mana, then gold, and then a bunch of each of these per annex province with lava in that city. There's new pickups that you can get, like something that grants binding essence and fragments. When I read that, I thought, okay, that's actually going to make me want to scat down here a little bit more, because up until this point, it is just another place to send my units, kind of like the water. But if it's got less nodes for me to clear there, then I don't know how interested I am in going there. There's unguarded pickups that grant gold and mana. Sounds okay. Underground generation is a bit different now. There's basically 3 climates, I want to say. There's the frost, fire, and underground. Uh, but yeah, as you can see, they didn't spend a lot of time talking about that here. The forge update's great. It's a lot easier and cheaper to craft items until you get to the higher tier things. Then you're going to need binding fragments. Binding fragments come from either disenchanting the higher tier things, or I think Giant Kings can get them as well. What else do we have here? Duration of crafting adjusted. Yeah, it's quicker to do this. Reclaimers is now going to nothing. All right, it did. We're back. Audio. I knew I was going to do it soon. We're coming up on 30 minutes. I had a feeling. All right, here are changes. The AI is going to have better gear. It looks like as you get to the mid game and late game and end game, they're going to get better and better equipment. So fighting them then can be a good way to get access to some good stuff to put on your heroes. When an enemy hero is killed in combat, you get their best piece of gear. They have mentioned this before in other things. Reduce the time it takes to convert a captured hero from 3 to 2. Okay, that sounds good. I haven't used this interaction in a long time. Usually I just sell them and get my own, but that could be good, I guess. Increase the gold from selling a corpse to be basically more. A little tiny bit more, not a lot more, but a little bit more. AI is going to be a bit different here. Yes, this is a big one. The freeze, stun, immobilize bug is, I believe, been addressed. I haven't tested this yet, but I think some people are going to be very happy to hear that. And what else do we have in here? Some art stuff, some stuff about combat. Single target is going to not go on all non-repeating attacks, if I remember correctly. I was talking to some people about this. This is not going to go on all, I think, magic attacks, like your full action things, are not considered single shot. Whereas a single shot that you run forward and only takes one action, I believe, is now how you're supposed to get the increased effects from like getting extra morale or modifiers have a higher percent chance of being applied if it's a single shot. Then again, I'm not too sure. I really don't know at this point. The following unit enchantments now have been changed from applying to base attacks to working on all attacks. Okay, that's pretty good. Primal's thing is going to activate, okay, on their non-primal attacks. So, or not on their non-base attacks. So their ranged units using their second ability can get extra charges now, it looks like. Interesting. And then, yeah, you can get extra damage from nobility if you're Oathsworn Righteous and some other things. Yeah, they're just tweaking things a little bit. It looks like Dark is going to work a little bit differently. Their Warlock's Curse is going to do more weakening and less of this stuff, it looks like. It jumps to an additional target. Wait a minute. This used to be really good against one target. Now it jumps to one more target. It could be a good way to weaken some enemies. Industrious no longer is blocked by charge resistance. They get some extra defense and resistance. Mystic has got some changes as well as Reaver here. Oh yeah, I saw the Spellweavers thing. They have an always hit 6 range attack, and that deals rift damage. This can then cascade to other units that are nearby. Sounds pretty good. I don't like Weaver's overchannel, so or extra spell cast can really like shift the pacing of the match or a fight. So replacing extra spells with this Dissonant Weave sounds awesome. Sounds amazing to me. All right. Ability can now graze on cast net. Apparently the Harrier could either hit or just miss, and I had no idea that was in there. Mage locks are very different. This seems very cool. The Mage lock cannon is now a full action attack again, but if you want to, you can use a snapshot. Snapshot does less damage, has less range, and less accuracy. And yeah, now there's no take aim interaction. That's just kind of been crunched into the way this ability should generally work. The Mage Lock inherently has more accuracy, so you don't need to boost up with take aim. What else do we have in here? Overseer has slightly more HP. They enter defense mode when they use punch up, and that can be used in zone of control. Yeah, zone of control locking, guys, especially supports, can be really annoying. Being able to use abilities in zone of control is something that can be super nice for the supports, and I think the Bannermen had a change that allowed them to work a bit like that too. Primal's got some changes in here. The optimal range is now a little bit further away on the darter. That's good because I never really loved using the darter. I always felt like its range was a little bit too low. And what else do we have here? Tunneling spiders get extra annexing range. There's a few changes to events. You can get slightly different effects on your units if you get them through events. I like the sound of that. I'm not sure what exactly that means because I haven't noticed that in game yet. Add a new variation of the retreat button when armies are outnumbered. Not sure what that means, but kind of cool. Does it just end the fight? If it does, then I think that's going to shift the way some people choose or the way they think about certain things. Okay, there are a lot of changes in here about society traits and hero skills, but I am seeing the time here and thinking we don't really need to go through each and every last point here. I just wanted to highlight some of the main points. But if you feel like there's anything that I missed that's really important, like specifically with these battle mages here at the end, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I think this is where we'll wrap up this video. I'll see you around and have a good day.